Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Holyoke Public Schools meeting. It is Monday, October 18th. Meeting starting at 6:03 p.m. Ms. Garcia, can you do roll call, please?
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
Present.
Ms. Brunel?
Here.
Ms. Williams? Jano Sims?
Here.
Mr. Bullock-Kent?
Here.
Pallamore?
Here.
Ms. Burke?
Here.
Have our two student reps here, Ms. Brennan, Samantha Brennan. She would be on Zoom.
She has a field hockey game today, so she's not going to be able to make it.
And Ms. Hall, and she's also not here yet.
Okay, they're coming in person, so like Ms.
They're
Hall
coming
would.
via Zoom. Yes,
Oh, they
via
would be
Zoom, but
via
they're
Zoom.
not in the Zoom.
Okay. All right, and Mr. Crushane, you called? All right, all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you, everyone. Just a friendly reminder that pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 38, Section 20, I am hereby informing all attendees that a video and audio recording is being made of the meeting, and the meeting is being live streamed and run live on the city's community TV channel. We're going to go ahead and move with agenda item 1, which is the student showcase.
Are we all set with tech over there? So for our student showcase today, we are going to be highlighting the Holyoke High School Theater Company. Do we have Bevan Brunel? We do want to invite Bevan Brunel for our student showcase.
Hi, everybody. I am Bevan Brunel. I'm the theater and media teacher at Holyoke High School, and I also am the director of the Holyoke High School Theater Company. This is our 4th year as a club at Holyoke High, and we're really excited this year because we are producing student written work only this year. During the pandemic, we really focused a lot on playwriting and developing our skills as playwrights, and Alicia Izquierdo is a senior this year, and she's been working with me since she was a freshman. She first worked with me in our first production, Caught in the Act, as a freshman, and then she took Intro to Theater and Theater 2, and now she's doing her senior capstone. And she is right now in a volleyball game because she is a superhuman student that is also on varsity. But she did start writing this play with me in the Theater 2 course last year before our midterm. The midterm assignment was to write 5 monologues for 5 different characters that interacted with each other in some way, but they were speaking to the audience or to someone else or themselves. And she wrote some really great monologues. So I said to her after that midterm assignment, I really think you should make this into something bigger. I think you should focus on this as your senior capstone and turn this into a full-length play. And that's what she did. She started really in the spring, heavily working on getting that first draft done of the first act of her play. And then over the summer on Zoom, we worked together a lot. She worked with me probably 10 to 15 hours a week, writing her second act of her play. So it's really exciting to kind of see this idea that she had last year coming to life now with students on stage acting out the parts. So it's really, really exciting. I do have some students here, so I don't want to talk too much. So I'm going to have Melendez come over. He's one of our theater company marvelous students here. And so I'll let him talk for just a minute.
Is it okay? Hi, I'm Luis Melendez. I'm a junior at Holyoke High School Theater. Sorry, at Holyoke High, and this is my 3rd year in the Holyoke High School Theater Company. I wanted to talk about how the auditions went for me for the play that's being produced this year. I auditioned with one of my friends, Nevaeh, and I was off script. No, we were both off script, and I think it went really good. It helped me learn to work with others, and it helped me like be off script more, and it just helped me like be a better actor, if that makes sense. And this was my first year actually getting like picked for an actual role and getting picked like in the auditions instead of being like an understudy. The other projects that I worked on 5 projects. I've worked on Haunted House. I've worked with Clue on stage. I worked in the competition play Tracks and the virtual duet play with my friend Nevaeh. And that was really challenging because it was on Zoom. So like the lack of communication really like brought us down, but I think we did pretty good. Even though it was kind of cringy, but like it was good. We did in plays, but it was like really like entertaining, and it was fun to have like this new experience on Zoom. I think people are going to like low budget high school play because it's comedy, but it's also like it has different personalities and it's more modern. So you get to see personalities that you would see in like a normal like high school, and it's like full of like a lot of jokes and just like a lot of humor, and I think it's like modern humor that a lot of students will relate to. And yeah, and I'm playing Javier in the play, which is a very stuck-up character. And yeah, I'm the director in the play, which is, I don't know, it's fun. It's fun to play a character that's not really me. People say it looks like me, but like, I don't think it's me because I'm like a really bubbly person. But it's fun to play a character that is like far away from what I actually am. And yeah, the play is going really good, and I can't wait to see how it plays out. Thank you.
Okay, now we're going to have Nevaeh Lopez, who's also in the show, talk a little bit about her experience in the show.
Hi, I'm Nevaeh Lopez. I'm a junior at Holyoke High, and I've been in the theater company for 3 years now. So I've been heavily involved as much as possible. I mean, it's been hard because of the past like 2 years, not being able to do much in person. But during freshman year, I was part of the Haunted House, which was my first really acting experience like ever, and it was so fun. I was stage crew and like helping out a lot in the background for Clue, which was also during my freshman year. And then to end it off before everything shut down because of the global pandemic, I was the waitress in Tracks, which was our competition play. And it was a completely like brand new experience for me, but it was like an amazing experience. And I'm so grateful because it's taught me so much. And then for my sophomore year, I was in a virtual monologue competition, as well as a virtual like duet acting competition where I wrote like both of the scripts for that. So writing a script and then acting it, it's also a different experience that I really enjoyed. And then now this year, I'm playing Sam in low budget high school play, which was also the first time that I've ever been picked first for a role. And it was kind of like a victory on my end because I put in the work and I'm finally seeing the payoff. So because this was my first audition in almost 2 years, it was really nerve-wracking and exciting, but I feel like I advanced enough since freshman year that I could really see a difference and I could really see the work paying off. So my character is Sam. She is the character that's playing Juliet within the play. she's very like chill and like relaxed. She gets along okay with everybody, but there is some drama within the play. Something I've noticed a lot with our cast and our characters is that a lot of the cast members are so similar to the characters that they're playing, which I think is really cool. But you can still pick out like the little details that like you can see the differences, but then you can see how similar they are. And we all get along really well. We're just really hopeful for this play. It's different having a student writer and a student director, because while we're going through the process of preparing for the show, we're also going through the process of changing things within the script and within the actual play. And we're providing feedback, and we're showing the director and writer, Alicia, something she might want to change or some things that she likes about it. And I feel like it's helping her a lot, as well as helping us like gain this experience. And I'm just like so grateful that I've been part of this theater company and all the experiences that I've gotten from it. Like, I feel like I've really learned public speaking. I've learned how to get rid of stage fright. I've learned how to get along with people quickly, because when you start rehearsal with strangers, you're there every day after school for hours, and you kind of got to learn how to get along with them. And at the end of those couple of months, you're going to have lifelong friends, or like create even closer bonds with people that you've known before. So I'm forever grateful for this opportunity.
Okay, well, the volleyball game is still going on. I'm not sure if Alicia's going to make it or not, but I think they have 30 seconds on the clock, but it's a long 30 seconds. So just some information about the play for you all. Low Budget High School play is going to be at Holyoke High School in the auditorium November 18th, 19th, and 20th at 7 p.m. Tickets are on sale now on the MIFA Festival website. So if you're an online ticket person and you want to buy your tickets now, you can buy your tickets online at mifafestival.com/events, or you can wait until next week and buy your tickets on site here at Holyoke High School. Staff and student tickets are $5, and general admission tickets are $10. Does anybody have any questions for the students?
Anybody here have any questions for the students? No, but I do want to say that's wonderful. I love what Nevaeh said, is that, you know, they develop lifelong friendships even with those that they didn't even know, and now they're meeting. Theater does kind of do that, right? Because you got to work together as a team to get a production going. And
definitely. And one thing that's important to say, I'm sorry to cut you off, is that this is in addition to their theater classes. So many of them are in the Intro to Theater course or Theater 2. Or if they're a senior, they're doing the senior capstone for the Performing and Media Arts Academy. So this is in addition to that work that they do in class. So they're really getting a lot of theater experience this year, which is awesome.
So that was going to be one of my questions, because I remember way back we had gone into what's called kind of academies once we hit the high school, and students were able to break off into specific academies that were offered within Holyoke High, and then obviously Dean Tech has its own sort of shops. So what would have been that academy? Was it media, or was it?
It's it's Performing and Media Arts. So we're in the 4th year of the academies here, and many of the students are PMA, Performing and Media Arts students, but some of them are freshmen and they don't have an academy yet when they're in 9th grade. They select their academies at the end of 9th grade. So we do have some students that are freshmen that are working with us. So they have not yet chosen their academy, but because they like this so much, they're probably going to end up being in PMA. Oftentimes when kids do the play their freshman year, they end up loving it and then wanting to be in that Performing and Media Arts Academy. And what's great about that academy is that even if you're not going to go into a career in performing and media arts, it really does help with the communication skills. So the kids, when they leave here, they are ready for interviews, for job interviews, for college interviews. If they are going to be auditioning for college plays, they're ready to do that. Even if it's just going to be some a pastime for them while they're studying some other topic other than performing in media arts. So it really does give them a really good footing out there in the community to practice those skills ahead of time. As you could see today, they really kind of did awesome talking on the camera here. So the other thing I wanted to say is, yeah, with this, the theater company is an extension of the club, but like I said, you don't have to be in the Performing and Media Arts Academy to participate. If there are students that are in the Community and Global Studies or in the Engineering and Life Sciences Academy, they are more than welcome to come out and participate with us. We don't exclude anyone.
So, so the ninth grade is basically like exploratory. Obviously, they try all the different academies, and at the end they decide, or
no, they don't do that. Actually, they have a freshman seminar process that they go through their freshman year, and then at the end of their freshman year, they get to find out information about the academies, and then they make a selection based on that information. And usually, the teachers in those academies will go and present, and we bring students with us that talk about the academies to the students, so they get to hear about that kind of stuff and see pictures and see video clips of what we do, and then they get to make their choice, their selection. Not every student gets their top choice in the academies, but they get to rank their academies in order, and they definitely get their top within their top two choices always.
now is there a cap? So I don't know if that's something that Mr. Soto would have to respond to, or maybe you might know. Is there a cap for like your academy? So like the Performing Media Arts Academy, is there a cap to how many students can be within that academy, and then obviously it would have to keep going?
So what they do now, and the freshman teachers kind of coordinating this with the counselors of school, they try to balance the numbers out pretty evenly. So it's a pretty even balance of those students in each of the academies. That way homerooms aren't gigantic for one academy as opposed to another one with very small numbers, and so they do. But what we have noticed is that the interest in performing and media arts has definitely grown over the years. In the beginning, the first year of the program, it was a lot less students because there wasn't a theater teacher at that time. This was before I was hired. And so then after we started the programming, students seemed to really get engaged with the programming. And we saw a huge spike in the numbers of performing and media arts students in the following year. So even looking at the numbers for our early college program, which I'm also the instructor for the Performing and Media Arts Academy, our numbers really have gone up over the years, even in the early college program.
That's awesome. And so this is going to go to the students. What was their wow moment that it was like, no, I got to be part of this academy?
So the question is, what was your wow? You guys can sit next to each other here. What was your wow moment, and why? Like, what made you want to be in the academy? What did you see happen, and why? What made you know? Lewis, no.
Yeah. So I was like in my freshman year, and there was like a lot of like posters, like in the hallways for the haunted house, and Nevaeh wanted to actually come and do it. And I didn't want to do it at first because like I'm a very shy person, and so I didn't want to do it, but she convinced me, and we came to the first theater company meeting, and ever since that meeting, like everyone was so like welcoming and so like thoughtful and nice, and it made me like very interested into the like the theater company and the PMA, and I just knew it was something that I wanted to do. And
Yeah. So for me, I've grown up being interested in the arts, like performing arts. I've been doing ballet since I was 2. But I knew I wanted more than that. I wanted to be able to do some more kind of like performances. And so that was right away. Like in middle school, I decided I wanted to go to Holyoke High School because I had like heard great things about the theater company. And then freshman year, I was determined. I was like, I'm going to try out for as much stuff as possible. I'm going to audition. I'm going to like see if I can get my friends involved because I didn't want to do it alone. And even though I didn't always get picked first, it did deter me a little bit. But even after being part of so many productions, even not as an actress or being on stage crew, it just showed me how much I enjoyed this, and I knew this is what I wanted to do. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So like for me, I auditioned for tracks, but I originally didn't get casted. But I was part of like, backstage and whatever, and I was there for like every rehearsals. And I think it was like 3 people that went through the high school boy part. And there was just one day where just someone, it was a whole situation. And I got put like very last minute. I think it was like a week before the first performance. And I stepped up as the understudy and learned my lines in 3 days. And that's when I really knew like I can do this. And it was like one of my biggest accomplishments. And I'm like very proud of myself.
That's awesome.
So also for tracks, that when I auditioned, I also didn't get picked for a role, which frustrated me more than not getting picked for Clue because it was my second time auditioning. And I was like, okay, this is a sign. Like, maybe this isn't for me. No matter how much I enjoy it, like, maybe this is not what I'm, like, meant to do. But even after that, I still decided to come to the rehearsals. And it was only a couple rehearsals after, like, the cast list was put out where some of the cast members left to do the musical or couldn't commit. And then I got put in, which wasn't as last minute as Lewis at all. Like, it wasn't even close. I did have, like, more than enough time to get my lines down. But it just showed me, like, that it didn't matter that I didn't get picked first because I still ended up enjoying it anyways, and I still worked hard, and we still had an amazing time and amazing experiences at the end of the day.
That's awesome. Thank you guys so much. I wish you all the best. And I can't wait to come see this show coming up on November 18th. Thank you. Mr. Soto has some words.
Yeah, I really just wanted to thank both Lewis and Nevaeh for joining us tonight. Your confidence is just through the roof. I love it. I was there for a couple of days last week. I thought the building was on fire. I saw a couple of kids in firefighter outfits. I don't want to give too much away, but I had an opportunity to see you guys rehearsing, and it's amazing. Your story about not getting casted and then still sticking with it is just that example. That's what a Holyoke student is all about. Is just persevering and continuing to grow. So I appreciate you guys coming today and presenting to the school committee some great things that are happening. And just keep up the good work, and I can't wait to see the play.
Thank you.
Our director and playwright just arrived from her volleyball game, and she's breathing heavily, but she's arrived. So, yay.
Hello.
Welcome.
Hi, how are you guys?
We're good. How are you? How was the game?
It was very tough. Unfortunately we lost, but it was a great game. It was really close each set, so
As long as you put your heart into it, that's all that matters.
I'm proud of my team. Okay, so my name is Alicia Izquierdo, and I'm a senior at Holyoke High School. And in the beginning of this summer, I was working with Ms. Brunel to continue writing a play that I had started for a project last year. And I got the idea of doing this project because, I feel like we always struggle like trying to like figure out what plays we want to do throughout the year. So I thought, why not write one of our own so that we don't have to spend money on like buying one. And so basically the play is about these five teenagers who go to a school that isn't funding their theater production or their theater company. And so they're doing everything themselves. They're coming up with props and costumes themselves. And so throughout the play, you get to see them work together to try and figure out like different ways to like get through the things that are happening. Sorry, oh my God. Woo! Huh? Yeah. Yes, the obstacles. All right. Yes, sorry, I ran here. So all the characters are very diverse. I wouldn't say they're very stereotypical, but they all like play a different part in the play. So you have Terrence, who is the head of tech crew. You have Javier, who is the director of the play. You have Victoria, who does costume and makeup. You have Sam, who is playing the lead role, Juliet, and then you have JD, who's playing the lead role, Romeo. So they're trying to put together the play Romeo and Juliet, and they're trying to do it themselves. And basically, the whole show takes place a couple hours before their first opening play. So this is the first time they're performing. And basically, when you're watching the play, you just see like a lot of stuff that's going on backstage, and a lot of the conversations that they're having. There's a few parts where we even have videotapes that are pre-set. Because what we do is that some of the play is going to be inside the theater, and then you're going to have like a point of view where they leave the theater, and you're going to have videos of them outside the school. So you still get like the feel that you're like legit, like it's like kind of a movie or like kind of like a short film, which is something new to us. Like we've never done that before. And I think it's really great that we're doing it because, it's different. I like it that we're incorporating that. Yeah. Because we're performing in media arts, and so we've done like performances every year, and then I think this year we're really bringing in that media to it. All right, do you guys have any questions for me? I'm open to answer anything.
Anyone have any questions? Oh, Mr. Collmore.
Yeah. What do they do for costumes? Is there any way people can donate old hats or jackets?
So a lot of the costumes that we're having are clothes that the cast are bringing in themselves. You're only going to really see two people wearing, well, actually, no, three. You're going to see three people wearing costumes. You're going to see the custodian wearing his janitor suit and a hazard suit. And then you're going to see JD with his Romeo costume. And then Sam with her Juliet costume. So a lot of it is just just regular clothes that we have the cast bringing in. It's very simple. The play is very simplistic, which I like. A lot of the stuff is like easy things that you can find like around your house. The play obviously is called low budget high school play, so we tried like keeping it as low budget as possible.
I know. I think some of us are thinking that it's depicting us.
It just makes it easier for us because it is like money is very scarce for us. And a lot of the money that we do get are donations. But it's just easier for us to work with, I think.
Yeah. And Elise is right about that. Like everything that the theater company does is funded by our own fundraising. So recently we did a t-shirt and sweatshirt sale, and that helped us make a little over $200. And right now we're doing a SNAP fundraiser, and as of this morning we had almost $1,000 raised. That was good. So yeah, that was a good start to that fundraiser. So we're always looking for new ways. Wisteria Hearst, that haunted house that we did at Wisteria Hearst before the pandemic, that helped us to raise $2,500. So basically everything that we do is a fundraiser so we can continue to do our performances. It pays for the costumes when we do need them. Like in Clue, we needed really specific items. So costumes did cost a lot more for that. The rights alone for Clue cost $4,500. So when we're doing like published theatrical pieces, you have to pay for the rights, you have to pay for the scripts, and sometimes they're very expensive. So doing student written work not only gives them an opportunity to kind of workshop their work and work through it as creative artists and work through that process that real world playwrights work through, because we do the same exact process as when I worked at Arizona Theater Company and we were putting a brand new show on. They would do everything that we're doing here at Holyoke High, but the students are at the center of that instead of professional artists. And then a lot of our fundraising also goes towards field trips. So a couple years ago, we went to New York City, and the students really want to try to make that happen again. We like to bring in professional guest artists. A couple years ago, we had members from Freestyle Love Supreme who are performing now for their second time on Broadway and just won a Tony Award. They came and did workshops, freestyle workshops with our students here, our music and theater students. And I've been in talks recently with a Broadway playwright about coming and doing a playwriting workshop in the spring. So we're just trying to keep like as many doors open, and having that fundraising gives us a little bit more opportunity to connect the students to the professionals in the real world and give them that experience of doing workshops with Broadway artists.
Ms. Brunel, thank you that you mentioned that. How do you get the word out about this fundraising? So like the snack thing that you're talking about snack, something you eat, right? That's what you're talking
No,
about?
SNAP, SNAP. It's kind of like a GoFundMe where students just do an ask for donations.
Oh.
So I can send that link out to Samantha, and maybe you guys can send that out. But it's just an online ask, like a GoFundMe right now. And we launched it on Friday. And really, when I checked it this morning, I was really happy to see that we almost hit $1,000 already.
Yeah.
So
If you
our
can
goal
do
is
that.
to hit 4,000 so we can try to keep that trip to New York on the horizon. Because when we went a couple years ago, we had a great time. We went and met with, I worked in professional theater for about 10 years. And so I have a lot of different connections. And so a friend of mine who works for Broadway Tours based in New York met with the students. We met him at a park and he did a talk back with the students about his job. And then we went to see the prom on Broadway. So it was a really awesome experience for the students. The show was really relatable for them.
Yeah.
And there's so many wonderful shows now that Broadway's back open again. I went last weekend and I'm going back in a couple of weeks to see another show. So we just want to keep those doors open, because the more real life experiences they have, the more appreciation they'll have for the arts, even if they're not going to major in the arts when they go to college. What are you thinking about majoring in, Alicia?
Okay, so I was talking to Miss Regali and I was telling her that I wanted to do film.
Oh,
I wanted
awesome.
to go to film school, so she's helping me out with that. Then she was saying, "Oh, you can go to HEC and then go to a university for filming," and so we're trying to work with that
Awesome.
right now. But I definitely want to do like film directing or do short films.
Yeah. So just keeping the door open, but the classes that we have is a gateway for students, but this is just a large extension of what we can do at Holyoke High. And it's really it's limitless what the students can do. We're also doing another student written play for our competition play this year. Shane Bourgeois is written a 1-act play called, what is it called? At What Cost? And he's also in the workshop phase of it right now. We've done multiple read-throughs for feedback with students, and he's in his rewriting phase. And we'll be doing another read-through probably in November, because we're going to be having auditions right after the show ends for our competition play.
All right. Well, thank you, Bevan and Alicia, and Lewis and Nevaeh. I thank you all for coming today and showcasing the Holyoke High School Theater. Again, everyone in the community, we just want to encourage you to come to watch the show, which will be in November 18th, 19th, and 20th, correct?
Yes. 7 p.m. at the Holyoke High School Auditorium.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
The next student showcase we have, I'm not sure if she's here, Jacqueline Jourdain. We wanted
Mr.
to...
Soto,
Yes.
Mr. Soto, Jackie was also at that volleyball game, and she asked that she come back in November so that she can be out of uniform and dressed in her professional attire. So
Great.
Hopefully we can recognize her in November.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm writing that down. So bring back in November so that we can definitely have her on the agenda. All right, so we're going to move on to public comment. Is there any public comment signed up, Ms. Garcia?
No public comment.
Okay, so I just want to talk about public comment for a minute. I know that for the past, almost 2 years, we've been on Zoom. A year and a half, we were on Zoom. doing our school committee meetings. And just recently we came back in person, and obviously because we have to meet guidelines in regards to spacing, distancing, we encourage that the public be virtual. So now in respects to public comments, yes, I have been very lenient, laid back, and I have not been going according to our regulations, which states that whatever you speak upon in public comment, it has to be on the agenda. But then again, our agenda has been very broad, where you can kind of almost stick anything into being able to speak about it. From now on, we are going to make sure that our agenda is according to specifics and what we're going to be speaking about. It's not that I do not want to hear from the public, because we do want to hear from the public, but there are ways to have that done. And how we do that is, if you want a specific item on the agenda, it needs to be submitted 15 days prior to the meeting, and it can be sent to Ms. Garcia, so S. Garcia at HPS. It's a long thing. Mass what? S.A. Garcia at hps.ma.u. Dot a bunch of things, but you can find it on the HPS website. So that serves if you want a specific agenda item on our school committee meetings. If you want to do public comment, obviously, then that you would submit your public comment. So it's not only just a request. What I need people to understand, it's also what you plan on talking about or speaking. So, because maybe your speech might be, or what you want to talk about is longer than 2 minutes. So our rules are that it's 2 minutes, right? That's what we have on our policy or on our procedure, bylaw, whatever you want to call it. It's on there, it's 2 minutes. So when you come and speak at the public comment, either you're going to summarize what you have, or it's going to be 2 minutes or less what you wrote, or you're going to speed read through it and gasp for air after the 2 minutes. So that's how that works, but it's sent to Ms. Garcia, who will then distribute it to all of us so that we all have it ahead of the meeting. That's why it needs to be submitted to Ms. Garcia at least the Wednesday before our Monday meeting. So our meetings are typically always on a Monday unless it's a holiday. But it will be posted, and you should be able to see when you can submit your public comment. And then, of course, you will be called upon to come and speak. But I'm going to emphasize, at no point does the school committee not want to hear from the public. And I do not appreciate to be told that when people want to speak, they don't get heard. That's what we are here for. We are here to work with our community. We are here to hear from our community. But we do it the right way. So hopefully that doesn't hurt anybody's feelings, but instead we'll continue to work collaboratively, and we hope to hear from them then next month. Does anybody have any questions or comments about public comment? Ms. Burks.
I just want to add to that and state that the reason why that's in order is because when people speak at public comment, if you are not on the agenda, it does not give the district or us the capability to respond or to ask questions or to respond to accusations. It doesn't let us ask students of their experience. We can't communicate. We can't do anything. And that hurts us as well as the speakers. So, that's just a point of clarity. I wanted to make sure people understood of why we can't speak when something's not on the agenda, because we can't respond.
I hear that, but also in regards, we can't respond to the person that's doing the public comment. We can never respond. And that's all. It kind of sounds weird, right? Because somebody will come up and they're like waiting and looking at you like, is there a question? It's like, No, I'm sorry, I can't ask you a question. I can't even ask you or comment on what you said. But we take that information so that when we get to that agenda item, we could ask clarifying questions. But in regards to accusations, those are probably things that we can't be asking questions about. But we can ask clarifying questions as to what may be going on. Because then technically the district is already coming here with some information. Mr. Wellahan.
Sort of simple. It's a public comment section. Comment. It's not a give and take. It's not a question and answer. It's not a debate. Okay, it's simple. Okay, it's a public comment section. So if people have something to say, to get off their chest, take the appointment, get it off their chest. It's gonna be noted for the record. Okay, and duly, if our Dr. Soto has to respond to it going forward, you will. Simple. Thank you.
So guess what? That's the only comment that I had about public comment. So now we're going to go ahead and move on. I don't have anything under communications and reports, but I'll shift it over to our receiver, Mr. Soto, on his superintendent receiver reports.
Yeah, before we get into the report, I do want to recognize that we do have a student rep, Cheyenne Hall, from the Holyoke High School Dean campus. Cheyenne, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I was hoping that you could come off camera and introduce yourself to the school committee. I guess she doesn't like being put on the spot. I'm sorry, Cheyenne. Whenever you're ready, I'm sure the school committee would love to meet you and hear why you decided.
Hi.
Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
We could. Do you mind coming off camera if possible?
I can come off camera. I just don't know if you'll be able to see me.
We would.
Okay, let's see. It's kind of dark because I'm driving right now. My mom's
okay,
driving.
I'm sorry. We don't want you driving and on camera.
No, not me. I promise. Okay.
I'm wondering if you could just introduce yourself. What grade you're
Yeah, of course.
If you already have a shop selected, what shop you're in, and why you were interested in joining as a student rep for the school committee.
Of course. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Cheyenne Hall, and I'm in the 11th grade. I play soccer and I play basketball, and I wanted to join up for the school committee and be able to talk to you guys to share my opinion and to share all my school's opinion. I'm also in part of the student government, and I'm president of student government of my class. So I just thought it would be a great idea because I talked to so many of my classmates and so many of like my teachers. And so I get a lot of opinions, and I just wanted to share them and be able to talk to everyone about it. And to further on that statement, I had talked to my teachers, and we all came up with like this kind of speech that I could say really quickly. And basically it was just saying like how we were able to get funded this amount of money from our sale that we had, because we had like a whole bunch of equipment coming around. And we didn't really use that equipment no more, so we had to sell it. But fortunately, due to that selling, we were able to make a huge amount of funding. And that funding is now going to be able to go to our shops. Like my shop is health assisting. And we have like a whole bunch of textbooks, but those textbooks are out of date. And now because of that money, we're going to be able to get those new textbooks that we need. And it's not only just my shop, like health assisting, it's going to be culinary, getting new equipment, carpentry, electrical, all these shops. And not even just our shops, just like our clubs too. Like our student government, our dean ambassadors, and we also have like this career program to help like kids get their resumes ready. We'll be able to get the computers for that and be able to set people up for their future. And basically that was all that like I had to say. And I just wanted to be very thankful to be able to talk to you guys today and share my opinion.
Thank you so much, Ms. Hall. We appreciate you being a part of the school committee. And I also want to really thank the finance subcommittee for unanimously voting to approve that funding transfer, the Dean campus. So for those that don't know, we sold a lot of scrap metal and equipment in a shop that we no longer have in use, and typically that revenue goes to the city. I had the opportunity to meet with Mayor Murphy and express to him that the schools really wanted to keep. It was about $150,000. Wanted to keep that revenue so that they can upgrade a few of their shops. One of the things that they're doing with that money is in the metal fab, they're going to be clearing out space so that the carpentry department and the electrical department could build small model homes and really use that space. I think it's going to be amazing. And like Ms. Hall mentioned, another use is going to be upgrading the culinary department and the health services department. So I wanted to thank the finance subcommittee for approving that and the mayor for signing it. And I hope that tomorrow the city council votes to approve that transfer as well. We wanted to give a quick COVID update. So I am on slide number 6. As of October 14th, the state reported that the city of Holyoke had about a 32.3 average daily incident rate, which is the highest in Hampden County. We've had 5,591 tests performed in the prior 2 weeks, and we've had a positivity rate of about 4.42%. 184 positive cases citywide over the last 2 weeks as well. And overall, there's been about 6,761 positive cases in Holyoke. Next slide. So as far as metrics go, we have updated these metrics as of October 13th. We've had about 35 days in school and about 221 cases so far in school, 203 of them students and 18 staff. And in the past couple of weeks, we've had about 35 cases, and I think this is an important statistic as well, because although we have all this, the statistics in the community itself, we've only had 25 case incidents where there was potential spread, and I continue to use the word potential because it is the way we define spread is when a student tests positive or a staff member tests positive, we identify who the close contacts were, and if any of those close contacts test positive, we consider that potential spread, but we can't say with 100% certainty that there was spread. So we continue to see an increase in COVID cases in our student population, but overall our staff numbers remain very low, and that's likely because of the vaccine. We've allocated funding and are in the process of hiring 2 full-time nurses to assist with contact tracing for the district. Really, our nursing staff has just been amazing, but they are really spread thin. Whenever a case comes up, oftentimes they're on the phone till midnight doing contact tracing and waking up the very next morning and getting back to work. So our nursing staff needs some support, and support is on the way. We've had a couple vacancies that we're trying to fill. New positions, not positions that existed before. And we're continuing to stress the importance of social distancing and proper mask wearing. Every time I'm in school, I see our staff working really hard. I know our students get a little fatigued, but walking the hallways, this is what you see. You see this, students walking by and staff telling them, up the nose, up the nose. So our staff is working really, really hard to try to make sure that we're limiting school transmission, which I think has been successful with only 25 potential cases of spread.
Does anybody have any questions?
I'd like to
Collins?
just make a comment on the citywide
Yeah,
numbers.
absolutely, Mayor Murphy.
So some good news. We are now number 2 in Hampden County. So we've lost in one case we don't want to be number 1. So we have gone down to about 32 cases per 100,000. So it's a pretty good drop. Our vaccination rate went up 0.5%. So we went from 53.5 to 54. Our first vaccinations are at 61.1. So we're making a little progress. If we can continue to do these things and get more and more people vaccinated and kind of stay with the mask mandate for maybe a few more weeks, hopefully we can get these numbers down. Springfield is getting much closer to us to try to take over the number 2 spot, and they're welcome to have it. But we've made progress, and this has got to be everyone on board and everyone helping out. But we've gotten a little better. And we want to continue to get better. And I want to thank all of you and the Board of Health for all the things that they've done. I know it wasn't a popular decision, but it seems to have some positive results.
Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Kalmar? No. So just a quick clarification, when we're looking at potential spread, you said 25, so that is the total amount from the 221, correct?
That is correct.
And then for potential spread in the school, we're looking at close contact as north, south, east, west with no mask on.
Close contact as defined by DESE guidelines, which is within 3 feet with your mask on for a period of 15 minutes or greater within a 24-hour period.
So with mask on?
Even with masks on, yeah.
Okay. Great.
If you're within 3 feet.
I was just wondering, and other districts don't do it with mask on, they do without mask on, north, south, east, west, 15 minutes.
So then other districts aren't following DESE guidelines.
No, so then that's good to hear that we're doing it even with mask on.
Yes.
So thank you for clarifying that. Okay.
Yes. Okay. Next item on the agenda is revisiting the St. Vincent property. And for this, I'll just turn it over to the mayor.
If I can, I want to thank the school committee members that met with the city engineer and Councilor Bartley to try to get a better understanding of what we're looking at doing. And if you went by there in the last couple of days, you would note that there's been a good portion of the fence that has come out on one of the sections, and we've had some branches that we've been able to clear, but there's still other issues that are there. This is, to my knowledge, there's no real strong potential for an addition to the Dean School, but there is a potential, and it's only a potential. This may not come to fruition in terms of potentially putting 1 or 2 homes on that corner, but it is a possibility. It would obviously depend on a developer to come in and take a look at it. But if they do, and if they do it properly, more than likely you're going to have a much clearer walkway for the students that are walking up or down St. Vincent Street, and also going on Route 5 north on the sidewalk. They would more than likely have a much clearer sidewalk to use. So if we, and everything we're talking about is a residential zone, we're not talking about building any industrial stuff there. Obviously, somewhere down the line, someone could change the zoning, but that's not anywhere near the intention. Everything is 1 or 2 residential homes, both giving people an opportunity. And one of the other suggestions that came out was the idea of using members from the shops at Dean to help in terms of actually working on the homes should we get to that point. So it would be somewhat a lab, an actual experience lab, if in fact we get some developers. We can't force the developer to do that, but I can't imagine why they would not. So I'll take any questions if you have any, or hopefully you can support this.
Are there any questions?
I can go.
So I have Mr. Collmore, then I have Mr. Wellahan, and then Ms. Brunel. Mr. Collmore?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, looking at this map here, driveways, they'll all have to come out onto Northampton Street, Route 5?
It depends. If you look at it, he's got an A, B, and a C. If we change the zoning so that the frontage and sides are a little, that's an RA zone. He originally told me with the 3 that it would probably be an R2 zone. And the 1B, which would be on St. Vincent, that would actually have a driveway onto St. Vincent. The others would have driveways onto Northampton Street.
About
Potential.
right. About this easement of this storm drain.
Yep. Yep.
That's the responsibility of the city or not
Correct.
to put in that a new storm drain in there?
If the easement would require that the city obviously has access to any storm drains or anything else that we have to have that's under there, which we have now.
What about a clause in there that says if the property isn't utilized in a certain length of time, does it revert back to the school?
I mean, I have no problem with that, but I'm not really sure why you would want that. I don't think that would do schools any good. Ultimately, I mean, I have no problem if you want to do that and give it a 3-year or 5-year, whatever period. I think you got to give a few years. I don't think you can just give it for 6 months or something on that line.
Oh no, I agree. Not 6 months, but you know, if it's not used,
yeah, I'd be fine. I would have no problem with that.
revert it back to our schools, or else you leave that land open forever. What if say we need that area in 5 years? We would have to go through the whole thing to take back that property?
Are you talking about for the Dean School?
Yes.
Unless you had a reverter clause, yeah. I mean, my hope would be if you transferred this over that in 5 years, someone would actually have either decided to develop it or the city would say it's not going to happen. And I have no problem. If you want a reverter clause, and I would say at least 5 years, I would be fine with that.
If this passes, do we clear up that area for potential buyers, or is that going to be the developer?
No, we would, if this passes, the city engineer would work, we would, and with the planning department, we would be sending out information, requests for proposals from various developers. Some will come and say, no, I'm not going to do it. It might be too expensive to do it on the hill or whatever. But we may get some others that say, you know what, I can see this as somewhat a unique property, and this is what I'm looking to do. They would all have to go through our planning process. They would have to go through the city engineer, making sure that all the easements are met, that all the zoning requirements are met, and they would also have a reverter clause. Usually, when we sell a piece of land, there's usually in most cases a 2-year reverter clause that if you don't do what you said you're going to do within the 2-year period, it reverts back to the city. But you know, as the engineer said to me as we walked it, as we drove it, and as we reviewed it again, it might be developable, but he's not guaranteeing it. He's just saying there's a potential that he could see a developer looking at that and saying, I can do a couple of parcels on there, I could put a couple homes there, and I could end up making back my investment plus.
If by any chance there has to be a retaining wall down at the bottom of that hill, is that the city's responsibility, or is that the architect? Is that going to be part of the plan?
If we found out that that was necessary because of the development, then I would think the developer would also be responsible for that. I would defer to the law department, but I'm 99% certain that's true.
Mr. Wellahan.
Thank you. Yeah, just to follow up on Mr. Collmore, yeah, we had a productive meeting a couple weeks ago between the city engineer, Councilor Bartley, Mr. Crochet, and Mrs. Burks about the project in general. Some of the issues were we didn't really want commercial development there. I know Mrs. Burks didn't want a Dunkin' Donuts. She was adamant about that. So that's because of the traffic, and the kids are walking by there too. So we don't want a lot of cars coming in and out. So we were assured that that's not zoned for commercial use.
Yep.
It's zoned for residential use right now. So the potential to be, between 2 and 3 houses built there. As we stated, there's topography issues there. I mean, that map is good. Everything looks flat. The map, everything looks wonderful. But when I did a field walk on it myself, it's topography issues there, going up the hill and then going north on Route 5. There's topography issues. So it's even debatable whether you can get 3 houses there. There's going to be a cost factor for the developers to come in and landscape it, build it up. So there's going to be a cost factor on there. So right now, in my opinion, the schools, probably there's no benefit to keeping it for the schools right now because of the topography issues. So the use going forward is probably the highest and best use would be for single-family homes or maybe a duplex. We were sort of assured by Councilor Bartley that the school committee would be part of the process in terms of writing up language for a reverter, as Mr. Calmer stated. 5 years is, Mr. Bartley kind of commented that's probably going to be the guideline to get someone. Got to go out to bid, get proposals. People are going to have to get their financing in order. And so that'll take time. So I think the 5-year plan is good. And then we kind of kick the can down the road at that point, see if there's any interest in it. And then if not, then we can revisit it. And as me and Mrs. Burks were assured the school committee would be part of the process. We don't want this to be kind of going the way of the Lynch School, where that sort of fell by the wayside over there, and the school committee was left in the lurch with that. So we don't want to revisit that problem.
I have heard no one that indicates anything other than a potential for homes.
Yep.
And I will say, if you go on the opposite side of St. Vincent Street, you have a home on that corner, and you have a home on Ingleside Street. So, that's sort of how I came up with the idea that there could be 2 homes there. The city engineer has looked at it both from, as you know, he put 3 lots. When we first walked it, he said maybe we should just do 2. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, and he's leaving this open for a developer who obviously is going to invest their money and they're going to do it. But I think, again, it would provide some tax revenue. City certainly could use that. But beyond that, I think it would make that street and that walkway a nicer environment to walk up and down and to drive up and down, to be honest. Yeah. And that would be my hope.
Okay, so I just want to thank both you and Councilor Bartley for getting the ball rolling on that and working with this committee. Thank you.
No, thank you.
Ms. Brunel.
So as the one actual real estate professional who sits on this committee, I have lots of comments and thoughts about this. So I'm just going to read directly from what the city engineer wrote. Development constraints. Slope. The most significant development constraint is a steep slope that drops to the Dean School parking lot along the Ingleside entry side of the parcel. The top of the slope is about 75 feet from the Ingleside Street property line at the intersection and shifts closer to the street as you head north along. This makes the subject portion of the property impractical for development. Utility crossings. There's at least 2 utility crossings across the property from Ingleside to the Dean campus, including a 12-inch storm drain about 100 feet north of the intersection and an 8-inch sewer line about 500 feet north of the intersection. There also appears to be a buried gas and electric utility lines along the Ingleside side of the property. Easements would need to be established for these if the property was no longer under control of a city agency. Building setbacks. Any lot created at the St. Vincent Ingleside intersection would be a corner lot. A single-family residence would need to be set back a minimum of 40 feet from both right-of-way lines, and a minimum frontage of 100 feet would be required on both streets. This may be feasible, but it would place the residence very close to the top of the steep slope. Driveway access would likely need to be from the Ingleside Street due to the very steep slope at the top of St. Vincent if the second lot was created to the north. Opinion regarding development potential. It appears feasible that one, possibly two developable lots could be created at this location. However, the lots may not be very appealing to potential developers or prospective residential buyers due to the constraints cited above. Also, the issue of ownership and control of the parcel would need to be resolved before any sale of potential property could be considered. So, one of the questions I have that I'm not seeing an answer to is how much are we even valuing these lots at, right? So we're talking about transferring property that is currently owned by the school department, if you will, all because somebody decided that the school department doesn't take good enough care of the sidewalk? That's how this whole conversation came up? I'm sure we could resolve that issue. And let's say we do transfer it to the city, then is the DPW going to take care of it in the meantime? Because I know the DPW is extremely short-staffed, and there's been a lot of trash complaints around the city. So who's going to maintain the sidewalks and cleaning up the area while it's out for RFP? And then if it goes out for RFP, how much do we plan on charging for the parcel? Because I don't see any price established here. Where would that money go? And wouldn't it be better to actually list the property on the open market so that way you could actually get a true market value? I can promise you that with the slope on the property, you're going to have very little potential interest on developing this. I see no need to take this land off of the school committees, or the school, I don't even know the right word. I see no reason to put this out for development. We talk about zone change. So it's currently only zoned for single families. The RFP would possibly include it being proposed to be built for 2 families, which would require a zone change. So you can't tell me that it's guaranteed it won't go commercial just because it's not zoned commercial now, because it's also not zoned for a multifamily now, but you want to change the zoning for that. When the RFP if we did transfer this and an RFP went out, the main thing I want to know is how much would we be asking for this? We're talking about potential tax revenue, but on what value? This land cannot hold much more value than a few $1,000s because of the topography. The easements would be a huge concern. I highly doubt the developer would want to take on the cost of relocating storm drains, utility lines, gas lines, which means that they can only dig on so many places on the parcel. If there's a buried gas line there, who's going to be responsible financially for moving the gas line? So I just don't see the need. I don't see the need to take this. If it was a more developable lot, I could understand. But land is scarce, and trees clean the air, and we are facing a climate crisis. So I see no need to, let's say we transfer this, then the city, clears the land to get it ready for development? I don't know. I just don't see the need to, I don't understand the need for this. So I would actually move that we don't approve this. I don't see it as being developable land, and I don't see a cost for the land associated with this. So I would like to know how much the city thinks it's worth. Again, reading through the city engineer's report, it has a lot of concerns, and he doesn't really consider it developable. So how can we say it should be 3 lots when he's saying it could be 1, only maybe 2, would reduce the sale price that much more? So I'm a hard no on this one.
Do you have any response to that, Mayor Murphy?
I would just say that, number one, the goal is to see if there are developers that are interested. The price for what they would pay obviously is not determined until they determine if there's anybody interested in doing it. Is there a guarantee that someone's interested in doing it? No. Are there problems on that street and on that walkway that create a danger as of right now? I mean, is it a daily danger? No, it's not. Are there times when trees are coming down and then the shrubs being down? It would be the developer cleaning it up. It would not be the city using the city's money to clean it up, if that was the case. And I look at it from a improvement of the neighborhood look. I mean, yeah, trees are wonderful, but if trees are falling and go in that lot and see how many trees have fallen in that lot. If that's what we want, I'm fine with that too. But I put this out there, and you know, I appreciate your real estate experience, and I don't have that, and I'll freely admit that. But I look at this and I say, can we do something? The engineer certainly had his reservations, and he still does. But he said, you know, we would have to send it out and see if there was a developer willing to do that. And that's really what I'm asking. If the school committee decides not to, and you think this is something that the school wants to keep, then that's fine.
Mr. Collmore.
Has any thought been given about expanding that property? I'm talking, we'll say A and C. Could we go north on Route 5 to give more land there?
The engineer did not think that was
worse,
possible because the slope was even worse. So, and you'd be closer to the pitch would even be worse. At least that's what the engineer has. These are the only areas that he thought had a potential.
Mr. Wellahan.
Thank you. Yeah, I agree with Mrs. Brunell. I mean, it's not a prime site. I mean, that's part of the problem here. I mean, there's potential for 3 lots max. Again, that's if it meets, that's if the person that's buying it has deep coffers, you know, to kind of put some money into it. So that's really the max development. If this was really better land, then I wouldn't really want to sell it, because I would want to keep it for the schools for potential use, potential parking. But, you know, again, because of the costs of it are so high, the schools, in my opinion, aren't going to have those funds to bring up the code, bring up the topography to make it usable. So that's one of the reasons why I really don't feel the school system really needs it or could use it going forward. If those were flat lots, then I would have a different opinion of it. Thank you.
Anybody else have any other comments?
Sure.
Nope. Mr. Collmore.
If this doesn't pass, what are we going to do with the property? Is it going to be cleaned up, or just left the way it is today with trees falling and possibility of someone getting hurt up there on the school property?
Just so we're clear, this isn't land that's currently, it's like just woods, a wooded area. It's not an area where we have students. It's not an area where we have any type of traffic. I mean, we can look at the sidewalk area around it, but when you look at lot A, lot B, and lot C, that's just wilderness. That's not, no kids walk through there. No, you know, if trees fall down there, we wouldn't even know unless someone was actively going into the woods trying to look for it. So to say that, I don't think this came up because it was not maintained. I think that was a reason. I think it came up because it was an opportunity for additional tax revenue for the city, and then they used that as part of the request. It like wasn't, I could have my facilities team go take a look at those spaces now and just make sure the sidewalks are walkable. But as far as the lots themselves, we're not going to do anything with it. It's not space that we. It's not like the dingle where we at Peck where we have kids walking through no, this is wild area. Like it's a forest. We're not maintaining it.
I do have to at least offer one comment if I can. I'll just go in the last month, we've had 2 trees that have fallen onto Route 5. One that's knocked the fence over. One that was out into the highway. And I know we tried to get that cleared. And I know one of them got cleared. And I know the other one got put over the railing. Right now, my understanding is that is the school's responsibility when those trees fall, because that's coming. And I don't know whose fence that is.
Not if it falls on Route 5.
However, if it's coming from your property to somebody, if my tree falls onto my neighbor's house,
your neighbor's responsibility, not yours.
That's pretty sad. However, I'm just saying that was my thought, and. I still believe that if something was able to be developed there, you would have a more attractive street for the students, the teachers, and the neighborhood.
Yeah, I'd like to move that we vote on this.
So I have a motion to put the vote.
So I would make a motion to not approve this transfer of parcels to the city.
Well, hold on. So it's just a motion just to put it to vote. So that's
Out of order.
just
I think
Mr. Wellham.
Mr. Sheehan made a motion to sell it the last time he was here. So he laid that on the table a couple meetings ago. We didn't vote on it. He laid it on the table.
Okay. So we just take that.
That's the first motion.
So the motion was to sell it or to transfer it? It would be transfer because if I'm not mistaken, we're not getting anything out of this.
Right, which is
correct? Right.
Yeah.
Just like
So I had put my hand up earlier, but
yeah, I know. So is there a second for that vote? If there's no second, we can continue discussion. Okay, so go ahead, Ms. Burks.
so part of the conversation that we had with Mr. Bartley was we had asked for the 5 years, if it's not used, to be turned back over. We had tried to get a number of how much the land was going to be sold for, and like Mayor Murphy said, that wasn't something that could be given. We had asked that the Dean kids get written into the RFP to have them be a part of it. And there was one other thing. Oh my God, I forgot it. And that we asked for. There was one more piece. The RFP.
Reverter clause.
We asked for the reverter. Oh, we asked for the money back to go to the kids to Dean. Specifically, once the land was sold, by the city, we asked that could be put into the RFP. We didn't get a ton of movement on that because it kind of sounded like, it's going to be pennies on the dollar, which, pennies on the dollar still will add up into the Dean kids' bank account. And Mr. Bartley did say that he would like the school committee to be involved in writing the RFP to make sure that all of these things are met. Aaron's going to kill me right now. The one piece that I have to say, though, is like, right now we're responsible for the property. Yes, it's a jungle. Yes, nobody uses it. I don't think they're going to be able to sell it, truthfully. And I think it's going to probably end up back with us. But nobody's using it. And if there's really trees falling down into the highway, but I will say, it did take insult to the complaints in regards to how we maintain the property. I took a lot of insult to those comments, because I don't think that it's a school district thing in regards to it. But just because equally, the city, we could do the blame game, I mean, that's an easy thing to do because we could easily go and say the same about, you know, our park here. Like, that's not properly taken care of, and that's city property. And that's the city's responsibility. And we couldn't even hold the graduation outside because, you know, it's not in good shape. We had to have our kids and our crews and family members come and clean around the property because there was poison ivy, poison sumac. And if we were able to do the graduation, you know, we didn't want anybody stepping in that and getting that. So we could play that blame game of who's responsible for property. But it's not a property that's being used, and, you know, truthfully, and Mr. Bartley said that once it was turned over, immediately the city, Jay, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the city would be going in and cleaning that property up immediately, is what we were told by Mr. Bartley at the meeting. Am I wrong?
Well, I don't know how.
I don't think so.
I'm not sure how you define that. I mean, in terms of
That's what he
pruning it around so it doesn't fall into the street for a safety hazard. But
So
the city won't be clear cutting it, I'm assuming.
So that was another kind of win in that sense of the situation that, well, I'm just saying if they're going to clean
So
it up.
really quick, just because I'm going to put in my 2 cents in, and then we're just going to go ahead and go for the vote. For me, I was part of that meeting as an observer, Ms. Burks. I was part of that meeting as an observer, and it was a one-way talker versus a collaborative, okay? It was also where you couldn't say something without being felt like you were stupid for saying that. So for me to sit here and to actually believe that the school committee is going to be part of anything, I would have stupid written over my forehead, okay? Because I won't believe it until I actually see it. That's number one. Number two, that then it'll come back to us. I don't know how it was done when the Lynch transfer was done. I don't know if you guys had that included in it. But I have a feeling this agreement or whatever will be done way before the school committee meeting. The school committee is even going to be a part of it. And it won't even be in there. No reverter clause. There's not going to be anything in there to indicate. I guess maybe I'm just not easy to trust things because I also look at a person's behavior. And if I sense that there's something going on where you're doing all the talking pretty quick and not really allowing for discussion or allowing to even have some sort of comment or opinion without being targeted back, that's a problem. I think we should be really receptive to opinions of others and see how we can kind of establish a trusting relationship. But again, that's just me. You know, I was an observer. I don't interrupt meetings. When I'm observing a meeting, keep my camera off. But I'm watching the whole thing. I'm watching body language. I'm watching every time you're interrupting the person because you want to talk. I'm watching your tone. So from right there, I couldn't believe anything, just like as much as Ms. Burks is trying to sell this, that you're going to be a part of it. I mean, if that's the will of the school committee, just hand it over. That's fine with me, but don't get upset if you're not part of that whole meeting. And if you do get invited to it, then hey, that's great. You know, I'm one of those people that can turn around and say, because I'm that big of a person, I was wrong. Look, that's great that you did it. I was wrong. But then again, you got to show me. Ms. Burks?
Well, I agree that there were a lot of points in the discussion that were manhandled, for the lack of better wording. I will agree with you on that. That is true. But I'm in this place right now where our city is so divided, and I can't believe, like, I need to have faith in people that we're going to unite again somehow, because right now this city feels, to me, broken. There's a right side, there's a left side, there's this, there's that, there's pick a pack, there's don't pick a pack, there's all of this political jargon and just feels broken to me. So for me to sit here and say that, you know, that I would have to go on a wing and a prayer of what Dave Bartley said, he's going to hold to be true. I have to have some kind of faith. I have to have faith that our city's going to somehow come back together. And, you know, God help me if that's extending an olive branch, even when I'm struggling to. We have a whole city council full of counselors that we can ask also, you know, for help and to continue to unite us. We can't stay broken forever. We cannot. It's not possible. So we have to have faith moving forward that we're all going to work together to make a stronger relationship between us and the city council. Like, I have to believe that. I have to. Because I want this to be home again. So, I just needed to put that out there.
Mr. Wellahan, okay, so Ms. Brunel, Mr. Wellahan, then it's the vote, that's it. Good? Ms. Brunel?
So I'm not willing to vote on this until we draft an RFP and have all of the concerns that the school committee raised incorporated in said RFP, and then maybe also evaluation on the land, so that way all of the points that were brought up in that meeting that happened get brought to us in writing. I haven't seen a recap of that meeting. I don't see minutes of that meeting. I don't have a summary of that meeting. So I would like to get all of that in writing. I'd like to see a draft of the RFP, and I would like to know how much value they're putting on said land. It has no reference as to which city councilor it came from. There's simply no reason to transfer land that is clearly not developable as stated by the city engineer. So if we can table this until we can see a proposed RFP, I want summary and meeting minutes from the meeting that you guys had, and then I think we can continue to discuss this further.
So, Ms. Brunel, if you can, so summary of meeting minutes. If this was to go, summary of meeting minutes, you said a draft, the RFP. What else?
I think that was, and a valuation of the land.
Valuation.
And then if it gets sold, what happens to the money?
Of land, and where does money go?
And then just for clarity purposes, it's the city's responsibility to take care of any trees that fall on the land now. It's going to be the city's responsibility to take care of any trees that fall off the land if we transfer it, all the way up until potentially someone does or doesn't buy it. So just pointing that out.
And a clarification on fallen trees. Okay. Mr. Wellahan?
Thank you. Thank you. This would be just a first step, right? Mr. Mayor, have to be transferred over to the city. The city council would have to accept this as surplus land, so they would have to vote on that in subcommittee and then in full session. So there's many steps in the process that have to be adhered to going forward. So I mean, this is a year down the road, a year and a half, in my opinion, before it goes out to a bid. You know, Mrs. Brunel makes some good points. I would second her motion.
So I guess the motion to table until we have her request that she put. Is that exactly what you're saying, Mr. Wellahan, that you're seconding that motion? So there's a motion to table this request to transfer the land with the hopes that we get a summary of the meeting minutes, a draft RFP where it shows, so wait, the draft RFP, that means the school committee needs to be involved. Right, okay. Valuation of land and where the money's going to go should be in that RFP. And the fallen trees is not in that RFP. That's oh, okay. Just making sure. Well, that's where the valuation of land and where does that money go? Okay. So there was a motion to the table, seconded by Mr. Wellahan. So it would be a roll call vote. Did any one of us just walk out the door? No. Okay, just making sure. All right, Ms. Garcia.
Mayor Murphy,
No.
Mr. Sheehan's not here, Ms. LaFave,
Yes.
Ms. Brunel,
Yes.
Ms. Burks,
Yes.
Ms. Feliciano Sims.
Yes.
Mr. Wellahan,
No.
Mr. Callamore.
Yes.
The motion passes motion passes 5-2. Okay, that's tabled. Hopefully we can get a school committee, all the people who were appointed to that committee. So that would be Mr. Wellahan, Ms. Burks, and Mr. Kershane, right? Oh, it was Mr. Kershane.
He didn't make the meeting. Talk with the engineer.
Okay. All right, so then it was Ms. Burks. I thought Mr. Wellahan was on it. Yeah. Okay. Okay.
He's on the
To be part of
Sure.
see if they can get the draft RFP. I mean, if we can do all this, maybe this could be on the agenda for next month. And we can get this done and over with. But I mean, I think that'll also show that there is collaboration and that what they said in that meeting was going to come to fruition versus us saying, go ahead, and then come to find out later, geez, we forgot. So. Oh, Miss Brunel.
I believe the city purchasing department. I don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure it's the purchasing department of the city.
Is that correct, Mayor Murphy?
Depends on what you're looking to do. If we're putting it out for a proposal, but we can't put it out for proposal because the city doesn't own it.
But it's a draft of what it would look like.
But you would still, you want to get a value, you got to put out a proposal. And we can't put out a proposal because the city doesn't own it.
I'm sure a
that's
real
just the
estate
reality.
company could do a valuation on the land. Not me, obviously, that would be a conflict, but I'm sure there's plenty of commercial real estate companies that could, for free, do a market analysis on the land.
Okay, well, anyways, we're going to go ahead and move on. The next.
All right, thank
That's you.
We're still part of my update. I'm gonna try to pick up some time here. Couple slides ahead. Slide 11. You're right there. Thank you so much. I just wanted to give the school committee an update on where I am with my listening and learning journey and my entry plan. I want to express to the community and to everybody that has participated that I'm super appreciative. I really appreciate everyone that has been a part of this process. It's been really great to meet with families, community members, and most of all, our students to get their input on the strengths and areas of improvement for the district. I want to explicitly invite everyone listening today to attend at least one of our 2 virtual sessions that are coming up. One of them is this Wednesday, October 20th from 5:30 to 6:45 p.m. And there's also going to be a virtual meeting for parents and family members on Tuesday, November 2nd from 3:30 to 4:30 p.m. And then I'm hosting on that date we're hosting a virtual meeting for all staff members. I want to also encourage everyone to visit our website and sign up so that you can get the Zoom link information for those sessions. And if you're not able to attend any of those virtual sessions and you haven't been able to talk to me and express and provide your input, we do have a survey available that would have to be filled out by November 5th. To the school committee members, I want to mention that we will be spending some time together on this topic at our December retreat. We've had some pretty good themes emerge from this that's going to help inform our strategy going forward. I want to thank Ms. Burks and Ms. LaFave for showing up to the in-person session that we had at Heritage State Park, where we had many families come and express and provide and just getting their voice heard on what they think needs to be improved and what they think is going well. So that's in short the update on my entry planning, and we could move to the next section of the agenda, or do you want to stop for questions or anything? Okay, the next section of the agenda is the middle school collaborative study team. I'm going to ask Jackie, Mahoney, and Aaron to come off camera, or whoever's going to be presenting, just come off camera, and then the other two would sit back. So Jackie's there. Come on. Shut my camera off.
Dr. Mahoney will come off camera in just like a minute. He just had to step away. Oh, there he is. Are we going to start here, Aaron? I guess so. I can't remember. I think you might be one slide ahead, Mike. Could you go back a slide? Back another slide? Yeah. Yep. Okay, thanks.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Here is a quick peek at our agenda. I am Jackie Jourdain. I am the Executive Director of School Leadership, which means I supervise and support many of our elementary and middle school principals. I was the principal of Ian White once. It was an elementary school with a growing dual language program. I was also the principal of Kelly School when it was K-8. My kids, my husband and I are all from Holyoke. I currently have a junior at Holyoke High School. And my entire teaching career was at John J. Lynch Middle School. I'm currently serving on the school building committee and was also a member of the middle grades collaborative study team, which you'll hear more about tonight. The main purpose for tonight is to share with you the recommendations from the middle school collaborative study team on the middle school experience. There are many things that we agreed on, and there are other things that we could not agree upon that need to be figured out by other leaders in the city. I want you for a minute to think about a middle school student that you know who didn't get what they needed in middle school. This might be a friend of yours. This might be a student you taught. This might be your own child or you as an adolescent. Now imagine if this child was given the academic and social support they needed in middle school. How might their middle and high school experience have been different? And how might their life outcomes have changed? Just want you to think about that middle school student for a minute, and we're going to circle back to that middle school student later in this presentation. We as a district have a responsibility to every single child in the Holyoke Public Schools. Our responsibility is to meet their academic and social needs and support their growth. Therefore, we need middle schools that work for every current and future HPS middle school student, not just some, but all. I give the example that I'm often at Stop and Shop or the mall, and I run into families or friends who are like, Holyoke Public Schools are great. If the kids really focus and are engaged, they can get a great education. We have great teachers. They just need to get engaged. Well, the bottom line is some of our kids can't, and we need to ensure that our programming addresses every student in the Holyoke Public Schools, not just those who are engaged. Back when Dr. Zreich first became receiver in 2015, he was struck by how many families and staff and community members approached him about wanting to change from K-8 schools to distinct elementary and middle schools. It wasn't his intention to come in here and change the configurations, but after so much anecdotal feedback, he felt it was important to be more systematic in gathering input and study what other options might be right for Holyoke. So in 16-17, with the support of Education Resource Strategies, we embarked on a listening tour where we held 4 community input sessions and hosted sessions at each school for staff members. There was overwhelming support for distinct elementary and middle schools. The most significant reason we heard was a desire for programming and experiences tailored to either elementary school or middle school, that it is too difficult to meet the needs of a 4-year-old and a 14-year-old all in one building, especially when our buildings are physically smaller. People especially felt and may continue to feel that our K-8 setup treats middle school students like elementary students. They stay together with their same classroom and walk in lines to move about the schools. They have limited choices for specials classes and extracurricular activities. And from a staff perspective, many staff members recommended fewer grades in a school so they could become more specialized in serving those grades, as well as more students per grade, so that teachers can collaborate together, so that SPED and L teachers can serve 1 to 2 grades instead of 4 to 5 grades. So for all these reasons, the district began to move in this direction by introducing 2 new middle school models, Veritas Prep and Holyoke STEM. That has also allowed some schools to become just elementary schools. A challenge is that we haven't gotten a new building yet. So we have more schools and haven't been able to finish this conversion to distinct elementary and middle schools. On this slide, we see how our pre-K-8 portfolio has changed since school year 15-16. We are now where we are now and where we'd like to go. By opening up new middle schools, we inadvertently reduced the average size of our schools from 412 students to just 331. With one of our schools, Lawrence, only having 167 students right now. Some of this is also due to population shifts in the city. The average size school in Holyoke is below national and state averages, which are more than 400 for elementary school and nearly 600 students for middle school. By having small schools, our resources are constrained and we cannot offer as many opportunities for students. Additionally, as we are in this mix of transitioning, you'll see that we went from 4 different grade configurations in school year 15-16 to 9 different configurations across 11 schools across 10 different buildings. This is difficult to manage and confusing for almost anyone to understand. In our ideal state, hopefully with a new school building, we would have 8 to 9 elementary and middle schools with a range of 360 to 550 students per building and only 2 different grade configurations. You're either in an elementary school or you're in a middle school. We hired Cambiar Education to support the work of the middle grades collaborative study team. The team consisted of 16 HPS people, including school leaders, teachers, parents, and district leaders. We also had someone with a counseling background, someone on the family and community engagement team, and a school committee member. Tonight, I believe with us on this meeting are Whitney Anderson. He's our maintenance administrator. Erin Brunel was on our study team, obviously school committee member, and Lulu Eckert. She's a 6 to 8 ESL STEM teacher. She's on the PBIS team, and she's on the Ethnic Studies Advisory Board. The purpose of the team was to understand the middle school work that has been done to date in Holyoke and the Holyoke Middle School experience today. The team also studied best practices in middle level education across the country and talked with experts in the field. Using input from many resources, we developed a vision and preliminary plan for middle level education. While there's a lot more work to be done, we're here today to share some of our work with you. It was really important to develop an engagement process that was inclusive and included the voices of those impacted. We engaged hundreds of people through one-on-one interviews, focus group meetings, and surveys over the past 4 months in order to solicit their input on what middle school in Holyoke should look like. Some feedback was super high level and other feedback was very, very concrete. Like when we heard from high school students about the importance of just letting students go to the bathroom on their own time instead of as a group. I share this story as one example of a concrete way that we could live out a belief of valuing adolescence. I'm going to turn this over to my partner, Dr. Mahoney, and he's going to talk about our data highlights from the team.
Great, thanks, Jackie. Mike, can you do next slide, please? By way of brief introduction, my name is Stephen Mahoney. I'm Chief of Schools. I work with Jackie in supporting our principals and their leadership teams as they try and lead our schools here in Holyoke. Prior to this, I was Executive Director of Holyoke High School and was very much involved in putting the high school redesign into practice. I'm going to try to be super brief because I know there's a very important baseball game that has at least half the city of Holyoke who are still Red Sox fans eager to watch. We first dived in with Cambia's support into a literature and a research lit review. We focused on the Association of Middle Level Educators as a really great source for us to get a sense of key components and beliefs and characteristics of successful middle schools. Beyond doing the literature reviews, we also explored and examined successful middle schools that come from communities that are just like ours. Next slide, Mike. As Jackie referenced, we had significant amounts of data from the survey and from interviews, but we also had internal data. This data that you see in front of you is data that's drawn from our panorama surveys. It is drawn from our STAR testing platform, and it is drawn from student performance data that we track as a regular result of making sure we're making progress and doing right by our kids. The key takeaway here, especially if you look at the fact that fewer than half of our kids are on track in middle school, and that fewer than a quarter of our kids are at the 50th percentile for reading or math when they leave middle school, is that our kids aren't ready academically when they get to ninth grade. A final one to catch your attention is that just about a fifth of kids feel connected to something outside of the academic program. The surveys that we got from about 560 respondents, three things really stood out as across the board strong support. Having an advisory period, making sure that students are on the path to complete the Mass Core requirements for Massachusetts public universities, and connecting the middle school programming to the high school programming available at both North and Dean campuses. An advisory period is a class that is embedded in the daily schedule. It is taken as seriously as any other academic or exploratory class that folks would have. And it really focuses on making sure that kids are developing the academic and social behaviors and dispositions to be successful in school and to be successful as budding adolescents and young people. So it deals with social emotional learning as much as it would deal with how to organize your backpack. The Mass Core, as most of you are aware, is the graduation requirement that students who matriculate to a four-year public university in Massachusetts must complete 4 years of English successfully completed, 4 years of math successfully completed, 3 years each of science and history, 2 years of foreign language, and 1 year of in the arts, visual performing arts. The latter two, students who attend Dean need to have 3 years of successful experience in shop. Shop would take the place of the modern languages and the arts. And then finally, that connection to the academies that we were talking about at the beginning with Miss Brunel and her cast, as well as to the shops that are available for kids at Dean. Final thing I would just pay attention to that last 54%. 54% of the respondents are okay if the programs are not exactly the same, as long as they offer a wide variety of choices, whereas less than a third of the folks felt that if we would have 2 or 3 middle schools, that the programs should be the same. Next slide, please. As Jackie mentioned, we did have some panelists come and meet with the team. Largely, they met as a precursor to our conversation about what grade levels we'd be looking for the middle schools. We're currently, and Aaron will talk some more about this, 5.8 or 6.8. I think that the quote that really stuck with lots of us afterwards, certainly Mary Siplick's quote about kids caring how much you care, not how much you know. I think that is true, wherever you go. But more importantly, from Ron Berger, that it's not, the grade span is not the make or break decision. It's doing it well that really matters. And when we get to our recommendations, we lay out some things that we think need to be done really well in order for middle schools to be successful in Holyoke. Next slide, Mike, please. Okay, so we have this is our proposed vision for Holyoke Public School middle schools. It is simple, it is straightforward. Our purpose is to make sure that we are getting the whole child ready to take full advantage of the opportunities and supports available to them at the high school level so they can be successful in high school, and in being successful in high school, set themselves up to be successful in their life beyond Holyoke Public Schools. Mike, next slides, please. I think going backwards. There you go, right there. I want to ask people just take a couple of seconds to look at these 5 guiding beliefs. These guiding beliefs were chosen from the 16 guiding beliefs or characteristics from Amelie's characteristics of effective middle schools. We added one, which was applied learning, number 3. These were the top 5. I want you to go back to the student that Jackie asked you to put in your mind in talking about middle school and kids who had really struggled in middle school, for whom middle school was not a successful experience. If that child had been engaged in active and purposeful learning, if there were multiple ways that they were able to learn and show what they know, if there had been activities inside and outside the classroom to engage them in applied learning, if the school environment was consistently safe, inclusive, and inviting, and if it was clear that adults valued young adolescents, would that child's experience have been different? It's a rhetorical question. I'm hoping that you're all answering yes in your minds. We also asked folks to identify out of 15 potential 21st century skills, which were the 5 skills that they thought would be most important for students to be successful in middle school, in high school, and beyond. I think that what's very clear to the team is that these 5 21st century skills, if students were, operating on all cylinders on these 5 skills, they would be successful at either the North or the Dean campus, but more importantly, they would be successful outside of the school world. Whether you're a lawyer, whether you are managing a restaurant, whether you're a police officer, or whether you are a salesperson, or whether you're in charge of facilities, these are the kinds of daily skills that you need to exhibit and use if you want to be successful. Okay, so Mike, next slides. Here are we've broken our recommendations into 4 buckets. Our first bucket is academic recommendations. We want to make sure that the middle school program and the middle school schedule allows for accelerated learning in math and ELA especially, so that students will be ready to be successful as rising 9th graders in the mass core requirements, that every student will be able to successfully complete those 4 years of English and math, social studies and science without having to go to credit, to go to summer school or for vacation academies, but be able to do it in the time that they dedicate to school 180 days a year. We also want to make sure that there are enrichment opportunities and career pathways within the core curriculum and as guided through advisory. We also realize that kids are going to have to make some choices, just like they make choices at the high school and just like they'll make choices if they choose to go to college, that you can't take every course that's offered. There's just not enough time in the beginning. Next slide, please, Michael. Our social emotional recommendations. Of these four, the first, the second, third, and fourth are already priorities for our schools and for our principals and their leadership teams. The first, though, would be a new structure and system that we would expect in both or all three of our middle schools. And it will require that we commit to A, making space for it in the schedule, B, making sure that we are providing training and support for teachers to deliver the advisory, and 3, to make sure that we've got a robust curriculum that meets the needs and the dynamics of our students and their experience both in middle school and getting ready for high school. Next slide, Mike. I know I'm preaching to the choir in that equity has to be at the core of all the decisions that we make. Two things I think are important here. One is that we want to make sure that our schools have equally high quality specialty programming and exposure to a variety of enrichment. And 2, that we want to make sure that we balance the number and needs of special populations across schools. We want both or all 3 middle schools, whatever we end up with, to be schools that can serve each and every student in the city, no matter their needs, no matter their strengths. Mike, final slide for me. And then finally, we have operational recommendations. We know that if we get a new middle school, it will only be one of 2 or 3 middle schools. So the plan that we develop for a middle school program needs to work, whether it's in a new building or in a repurposed building. We need to make sure that our enrollment is large enough to generate the staff positions that will allow for class and programming variety. We know that we want to make sure that not only is there time in the schedule for daily advisory, but there is time for daily educated collaboration, academic, and social and emotional, so that they can take care of the learning and the development of these young adolescents. And then finally, we want to make sure continuity of programming between elementary school to middle school and really middle school to high school is important. But it was the team recommends that we utilize the previous middle school building work as a starting point for the new project. Those are our initial recommendations. I'll now turn it over to Erin Linville to close our presentation.
Hey everyone, I'm Erin Linville, Chief of Strategy and Turnaround for Holyoke. This is my 7th year in the district. I work closely with Dr. Mahoney on high school redesign and have been involved with the new middle school launches and building efforts the past few years. There's one issue that the collaborative study team wasn't able to resolve, and that's the one of on the precise grade levels that should be counted as middle school. Given the number of students per grade in Holyoke and the capacity of the schools that we currently have, we examined 2 options that most closely, because they're the most realistic for Holyoke and match kind of the priorities that people set forth in designing the school. So we looked at whether or not we should have 3 grades 5 through 8 schools or 2 grades 6 through 8 schools. Option 1 is the grades 5 through 8 in purple. In this option, dual language would be a small standalone middle school of about 400 students across 4 grades, so 100 students a grade. The 2 other schools would be about 550 students each, with about 140 students per grade. There would be 5 elementary schools in total, one elementary school that would likely feed into the dual language middle school, and then 2 elementary schools that would feed into each of the other middle schools. And of course, we'd still want to maintain flexibility for some choice for families too, if they wanted to attend a different middle school. And then in the second option in yellow, we have 2 grades 6 through 8 schools with 550 students per school. Since it's only 3 grades per school, there would be about 183 students per grade. Dual language would be a strand in one of the middle schools. We would have 6 elementary schools with 3 elementary schools feeding into each of the middle schools. In both cases, both of these options are larger than our current middle school size of around 330 students and are closer to the state and national averages. Next slide. There are some pros that we see in both of the models that we studied that are very important to name. In each model, there are enough students to allow for the variety of programming and electives that our teachers and staff and families say that they want, while also not being too large that students aren't well known by staff. In each model, we could stop having schools be co-located. As you know, right now, Peck and Veritas share a building, and then Holyoke STEM shares a building with Dean. And if we wanted, there could be enough internal capacity in our existing schools for any student who would be displaced if and when a new Peck building was being built, if that's the route that the city goes. A con of each model is that not every child will be able to experience a new middle school building. So we would have to work carefully with many stakeholders to make sure that each middle school is an attractive option for students, families, and staff. There are obviously some pros and cons in each model. I want to highlight a few, but you should definitely look at them all. In the 5 to 8 model on this page, the most significant advantage is that there's an extra year for students and families to develop relationships with staff and support students to achieve that academic growth. On the flip side, some people think of grade 5 as too young for middle school. There are ways to mitigate this though, like you could have a grades 5-6 team and a grade 7-8 team, and then kind of separate activities and more independence as students grow older. On the pro side, this would allow 5 elementary schools to have a standard about 4 classes per grade. So almost all of our elementary schools would be pretty similarly sized. On the operational side though, having 3 middle schools for cross-school collaboration and collaboration then with the high school and transition to the high school would be a little bit more complex. Finally, I think this can be both a pro and a con. Due to the number of students per school, this model would require more innovative staffing models. It wouldn't be that like standard middle school experience that many of us older people have had, like 1 hour of language arts, 1 hour math, 1 hour science, 1 other hour social studies. There would definitely be opportunities to maybe take like a double block of language arts or a double block of math, or maybe have an integrated class like a STEM class. There are a lot of possibilities, of course, but we think those decisions would best be made at the school level. So on the next slide, I look at I detail the grade 6 through 8 model. The pros are that the 3 grades is a tighter developmental span. The flip side, of course, is that then students only have 3 years in that one school to develop relationships and accelerate their learning during a time of what is obviously a lot of personal change for middle schoolers. On the pro side, those common core standards in our curriculum are often grouped kind of in a grade 6 to 8 span. Some of our curriculum does change between grades 5 and 6. In this model, dual language students are integrated into one of the existing middle schools, so it puts less pressure on the system to make sure that there's an ideal number of dual language schools entering middle school. They would likely get, although the dual language task force is studying this, a lot of models that we've looked at is like there would be 1 class in Spanish, like Spanish language arts, and then another class, like say social studies in Spanish. So 25% of their day or so would be in Spanish. And then on the pro side, the cohesion, collaboration, and coordination between 2 middle schools and with the high schools would be a little simpler. On the con side, the 6 elementary schools would need to vary a little bit more in size Some would have about 3 classes per grade. Others would be a little bit larger with 4 classes per grade due to space constraints and just the total number of students that we have. I don't think that's that big of a drawback though. Additionally, we entered into the partnership with Veritas for their model, which is predicated on the grades 5 to 8 structure and has been proven to work really well in Springfield. Our data with Veritas so far is like really colored by the pandemic. This is their first year with all 4 grades. On the next slide, we show our preferences, how our 16-member team voted. In the end, after all that research we read, the data we analyzed, the conversations we had, our team wasn't able to reach a strong consensus on the grade span. And although I would love to say to this group that our team had a clear preference, our most significant takeaway is what Dr. Mahoney highlighted before, was that what's much more important is that we implement a strong model. Either grades 5 through 8 or 6 through 8 can work well. It's just up to us as adults to make sure that we plan for it and implement it well. Our group as a whole had a slight preference for the 2 grades 6 through 8 schools. But like I said, the group was only 16 people. An important next step is to share the findings of the work, which we're obviously doing now, with a lot of stakeholders and solicit their input. In conversations I've had with Superintendent Soto, he's obviously really interested in working with the school committee. Hopefully I'll be able to be invited to your December retreat so that we could talk about this further. On the next slide, on the next steps, I would just want to say that we have 2 slides here. One's near-term next steps, which I'm defining as about 4 to 5 months, and then other is a little bit longer-term next steps. This page, as I mentioned, this page kind of details everybody that we want to talk to about this. We presented to the school building committee last week, principals last week, and you guys are a huge group for us to present to today. And then we have a number of meetings with schools coming up, including Holyoke STEM early tomorrow morning. We want to get your input on the recommendations. How do they resonate with you? What are your thoughts on the grade span, the timing of moving forward with all this? As I mentioned, Superintendent Soto definitely wants to work closely with you and staff to make decisions on the grades model, the dual language model in middle school, and just work with the school building committee to decide on the school location for sure, and then secure a vote for and funding to enter into the feasibility phase of the project. And we hope to meet with the city council or a subcommittee of that soon. On the next slide, there are a number of things we recommend in the midterm. For example, teams of educators could begin working on aspects of the preferred middle school experience, such as researching a curriculum for advisory or exploring how to offer world languages for all students in middle school. Mostly, Holyoke Public Schools needs to work closely with the school committee, city leaders, staff, families, and students to solicit input on how to continue moving forward with our plan for distinct elementary and middle schools in a way that minimizes disruption to the extent possible. Plans for structural and operational requirements that allow for a strong academic program to finish and to flourish, and then is financially sustainable. This might require rezoning or closing 1 to 2 schools over the next 1.5 to 4 years. Once we have the plan, once again, developed collaboratively, it's really, really important that we give school leaders and their teams ample time to plan for their revised school configuration. There's implications for staffing, scheduling, teaming, program design. As we've done in the past with any school configurations, all educators in good standing with the district would continue to have a job with HPS. We definitely need to keep our talented and dedicated staff members in Holyoke. There would be a process by which they could apply for their preferred jobs. We would support them with having kind of priority with interviews. If anyone was having trouble being placed, then we would work with them to find a placement. And then lastly, there's definitely a lot of operational aspects to this too. Just imagine the shifts that would be required for transportation, moving furniture, moving teachers' classroom supplies. All of this takes time in order to do well. One of the biggest decisions to be made is whether we wait to shift to this distinct elementary and middle school until a middle school building's built in 5 to 7 years, or if we can move forward sooner rather than later. If we decide not And I just want to flag that there's a lot of things that we can't wait on. For example, like the dual language students at Ian White are soon going to be in middle school. Like we definitely still need a place for them to go. That will have to be, decisions like those need to be made before 5 to 7 years. And we've heard from the entry plan meetings and other community meetings we've had on this subject that our community is interested in having a clear direction on where we're going with distinct elementary and middle schools. Thank you so much for listening to that. We're moving quick to discussion. Depending on, I defer to the chair people, how much you want to discuss on this now or later, but I'll definitely send a survey. I'm curious, like what resonated with you? What do you disagree with? What do you still have questions on? And Dr. Mahoney, Jackie, Whitney, Lulu, or Erin Brunel, and I would be happy to answer your questions. Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions? Nobody has any questions? Okay.
Just a
Mr.
comment.
Wellahan?
Yeah, just a comment. You know, I just remember when Dr. Zweig was here, you know, he kept emphasizing that the middle school system is broken. He emphasized that to me and to our committee numerous times. So I just think this is the time we got to fix it. I have high hopes for the building committee just to get the right questions out there, the right answers, the right feedback from the public, from the students and the teachers, so we can get a system that works for our students, so they can get to high school. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wellahan.
Thank you so much.
Brunel?
So I was privileged to be the school committee member appointed to work on this group, and I am eternally grateful not only for excuse me, the knowledge I gained as a school committee representative, but as a parent to currently 2 middle grade students in Holyoke Public Schools. I would like to say that I think we need to move on this yesterday. We absolutely should not wait for a new building, which God willing the city council grants us, because it's hopefully going to go out for bond and not out to a citizen vote. We are working on that. I'm grateful enough to be on that committee as well. The committee, the work being done on both just collaborates so well together. I strongly believe we need to move on this, like I said, like yesterday. We need to possibly by September be having some schools not online, be working on a K-4 model, 5, you know, that's for us to determine. I would like to thank Mr. Soto personally for not only saying it in this meeting, but at the school building committee meeting, that at the end of the day, he does want it to be a school committee decision, along with the superintendent, to decide what schools come offline, what grade configurations end up where, whether or not we go to a 5 to 8 or a 6 to 8, whether or not we end up in 2 buildings or 3. So, you know, even under receivership, he understands that this is a decision and that is going to affect Holyoke families and the Holyoke community at large for decades to come. I think one of the worst things this district ever did was go to a K to 8 model. It segregated our communities. It provided for lack of diversity in education. I mean, look at the reasons why we have a 2-year algebra course at Holyoke High instead of a 1-year algebra course, because our 8th graders are not ready. Personally, as far as the grade options go, when it first came up, I was like, no way could I picture my 5th grader, currently 5th grader, in a middle school building. But the committee had members come in and speak to us who have experience in these areas, and I would like to say that I strongly believe that we should look at that 5 to 8 model. There was a lot of talk about how to keep kind of like 5th and 6th grade and 7th and 8th grade. But one of the reasons I firmly believe that that's what we should look towards is because I do believe that the middle school, that the dual language school should be its own standalone school. There's pros and cons to it, of course, like Erin said, which is why the committee couldn't come to a strong consensus. You know, But I think the biggest con is that they would only get potentially 25% of their education in that second language. Where currently my daughter has math, ELA, science. I mean, more than 50% of her day is in Spanish. And I think to truly be a dual language program and then to have the proper pathway for them in the high school, that we need to ensure that the dual language is getting dual language. I think the sooner we switch to this, the better. The dual language program is seeing a decrease in enrollment in that like third, fourth grade area. And one of the reasons we think partially is because Ian White has English option at their school. So if the student is struggling in dual language, they just say, you know, we're not going to be in this anymore. We want to be in the mainstream classroom. Where if that option is almost taken away, I don't think that the enrollment issues happening as frequently at Metcalf. I think that Ian White Elementary and Metcalf Elementary need to be in the same building next year, and there needs to be a middle school for the dual language. That's just my 2 cents on the dual language part. But again, the committee as a whole, the work, it's been months and months of work. I was grateful to just sit and listen to some of these people in some of the meetings. But we have a lot of work ahead of us to get this done and get it done in a timely fashion. And I look forward to working with you all to come up with what's best for our students moving forward.
Thank you, Ms. Brunel. Mr. Soto.
Yeah, Ms. Brunel kind of took the words right out of my mouth. No, but I appreciate that, and I'm going to be a little bit repetitive here because I think that this is a historic moment for Holyoke Public Schools, and I want to be crystal clear with the community and crystal clear with current school committee members, crystal clear with future school committee members, that this is not a decision that I, as the receiver of Holyoke, am going to make alone. This is a decision that is going to live long after receivership. It's a decision that you as elected officials are going to be a part of. We're going to, in December, we're going to have a retreat. We're going to have a lot of discussion on it. But this is an important time for Holyoke, and this is an important decision to make. And I am not going to make that decision without the help of the school committee. I think that, you know, as Aaron alluded, this is my personal opinion after having lived through and looked at, you know, resource allocation and looked at the way our grade configuration is set up. I think one of the major reasons we ended up in receivership was because of that decision to go K to 8, and then combined with a drain in resource allocation, we have too many smaller middle schools. You've heard Dr. Reich say this probably a million times in the 5 years that he's been here. And because of that, we have a middle school experience that is not a middle school experience now. And I just want to partner with you all as school committee members and make this decision together because it's so important for what our students are getting now and what they deserve in the future.
Any other questions or comments? The only comment that I'm going to have is in regards to your study team. I mean, I'm not knocking anybody that works in the district that's also a parent, but when you're going to put it on here, it's 16 people. That includes district leaders, school leaders, teachers, parents. That to me makes it sound like you also have a group of parents, right, that don't work for the district, aren't a district leader, aren't a teacher, but it's just a parent. And I would be picking some from Veritas. Trust me, you'll get a lot of information there. But it isn't. The parents that are on here are like Aaron. You know, I'm not knocking you. You are a parent that has kids in the school, but you were put there as a school committee member. So a representative as a school committee member, not a representative on a parent side. So why did we not ask parents who are actually living the experience that they're living right now from the middle schools like Veritas, like Peck, to see what is it that you would like to see that would actually help your child, that can help future children? What's your experience like right now? Because that's where we should be getting some sort of information from. I mean, if we're looking to work with the community, like we keep sitting up here saying, yeah, we want to work with the community, we want to hear from the community, but yet the only parents we're getting are the ones that are already working in the system.
So I definitely hear your point. I can't speak to who was asked or not asked to be on, but I will tell you that there was multiple levels of surveys that went out specifically to Holyoke Public Schools, parents, students. There was multiple layers of interviews that were done by the group that the group that helped facilitate the meetings. So there was, Aaron, if you could chime in on that too, you know exactly what the interviews were called, but there was empathy interviews. So Aaron has the numbers on how many interviews were done, the breakdown of who was interviewed, the breakdown of how many surveys were completed, and then due to not having a very high number of surveys turned back, they shortened it to a shorter, easier survey that was sent out as well. So while there may not have been a lot of, say, just parents on the committee itself, on the working team, there was definitely parent influence and voices and student voices heard throughout the process.
And I get it with the surveys, right? Those are indirect participation. What I'm saying is, at least there should have been 2 parents.
That's fair.
You know, I'm not asking you to make the whole group out of parents and just 1 or 2 people from the district. But I mean, if we're looking at working collaboratively again and building trust with our families, it's not all about, hey, I'll listen to your voice, just fill out the survey, or let me interview you. Obviously, you're not writing everything down verbatim. You summarize, right? We all summarize, because I bet you Sam's summarizing right now. She's been summarizing. So then we should be reaching out to families and saying, hey, we're creating this group. Are you interested? Then interview. I don't know how you would do it. Interview them, see like who's really invested in being part of it, and getting 2 or 3 parents on there and 2 or 3 students. I mean, it's all about listening to every voice, not reading every voice.
Sophie, I agree with you. I do want to let you know that we publicized it in the Holyoke update multiple times on social media, and then members of the committee reached out to parents, and I didn't have any takers. I definitely recognize that that's an insufficient answer and that we need to do better. I feel hopeful that the school building committee has some parent representatives that can work with us on some of these topics, and that also Superintendent Soto is established a middle school advisory group and a high school advisory group, and that's going to be a primary way for us to get student input as well. The middle grades collaborative study team is like our task is done besides this roadshow that we're doing, but kind of as a way to get more involvement going forward. And obviously, as always, we really would love love suggestions of people to reach out to ask to serve on these leadership roles, or have suggestions on how we could be more effective with that. Definitely always welcome that feedback. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions, comments? No? Was there anything else, Mr. Soto?
Nothing else, thank you.
Okay. Oh, Mr. Wellham.
Yeah, thank you. I think the building committees they're filmed and they're online too. The meetings, yeah, so people can watch them.
Yeah, so we've had 2 so far. The first one was in person. The second one was on Zoom. They're going to be on Zoom for the foreseeable future. Anybody can not only tune into the television, but I believe you could request the Zoom link and just participate that way as well. It would be wonderful to see more people sitting in on the process. You know, there's only one of us formally on the committee, but as many of us as want to can be viewing the meeting. It would be nice to see the city councilors viewing the meeting, seeing as they're going to be the ones voting on this. I think one of the reasons the school failed last time is because people thought the process was rushed, people weren't getting the right information on the money breakdown, but it's a very lengthy, detail-oriented process that is open to the public that anybody can sit on and watch. So the next meeting is November 4th, and it's at 6:30, if I'm correct, Mr. Murphy? 6 p.m. Again, it will be Zoom, so you can request a Zoom link if you'd like to be an audience member. We're missing a little bit of representation, so if you're interested, this goes to the whole public. If you're interested in being on the committee, I would encourage you to reach out to the mayor's office. We would like to see a little bit more diversity in the representation. We would like to see some more parents. The MSBA did recognize that we're lacking a little bit in our diversity on the makeup, and that's no fault to the mayor's office because they put out multiple bulletins requesting people to apply to be on the committee. So we have voting members and we have non-voting members. We've established working groups, but we certainly could use more representation from wards 1, 2, and 3. Also wards 4. We have a lot of representation from 6 and 7. We do have parents of Holyoke Public School students. We have business leaders. We have a great variety, but always could use more. And again, they're very much open to the public. And the more people that view them and stay knowledge on the process, the more people that show up to the city council meeting when it is going to be voted on. You know, community involvement and engagement is everything just in education, right? So we want our parents involved. We want our politicians involved. We want everyone involved because everyone talks about, you know, regaining local control and getting our schools back. Well, this middle school plan is a huge part of that. Whether we get the new building or not, you know, it may play a role, but, you know, we certainly, our students deserve it. So, and our students deserve all of our elected officials to want to be involved and engaged in the process.
Thank you.
To add on to what Ms. Brunel said, just so you know, in the Holyoke update this week, it will include the Zoom link, and then it's also on channel 15. Thank you.
Are there meeting notes for that one?
There will be. There will be. I still have to type them up and get them all approved. But I'm also doing summaries after each of them in the Holyoke update, and then we're going to be building out the middle school redesign website to have more information on it too. So there's some on it, but it needs to be updated. It's on my to-do list for tomorrow.
There are minutes approved from the first meeting, and I'm happy to share those with the committee as they come along. I'll share them with you, Mildred, and you can share them out.
Sounds great. No further questions? No further? Great. All right, there's nothing under new business. Announcement. Anybody have announcements? Ms. Burks?
Wednesday night, the Setbacks is going to be doing the trunk or treat at Holyoke High School. Starts at 6 o'clock. If anybody's willing to load their car up with candies and decorate, this Wednesday night, 6 o'clock. Holyoke High School, the front lot. It's always a great time, and it's one of the ways and the things that the Setbacks, along with Marianne and the Multicultural Community Services, do together as a way for students that really can't handle trick-or-treating and struggle a little bit with it. So it's a lot of fun. So if you could please decorate a car and come up, that'd be great. Thank you.
Any other announcements? Mr. Wilhan.
Thank you. Just want to remind everyone that the election's coming up. So my colleagues here are running for re-election on November 2nd. We also have the Holyoke Public Schools Athletic Hall of Fame ceremony. That's going to be held on November 6th up at Wyckoff Country Club, and I've been told that it's sold out, so the event's been a good success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wallahan. I also have the ELL PAC meeting. So that's the English Language Learners PAC meeting. Is for November 2nd at 5:30. And I'm pretty sure that's via Zoom. So people that would like to be a part of it need to reach out to Stephanie Garcia, if I'm not mistaken. Bruno?
When is our November meeting?
Thank you for asking that question. One moment, please. Un momento, por favor. I want to say it's November 15th.
That's what I have.
So I wasn't sure. I was only asking because I know that the election, like Mr. Willingham mentioned, is before that, and I believe Mr. Murphy will be on for a short time after that. So I'm not sure if you'll still be here at our next meeting or not, but want to thank you for your time as, what do we call, acting mayor? Mayor and interim mayor? Thank you. Interim mayor and acting your role here on the school committee and your time and efforts put in. So thanks for that.
Thank you. Thank you. And November 15th, November 15th, it will be the new mayor. So
Yeah, we could still invite you.
hopefully they'll attend.
We got seats over there.
So there's no further announcements other than if somebody wants to make another announcement, which would be.
Motion to adjourn. You mean
That's
a motion?
right. So we have a motion to adjourn. Is there a second?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? I doubt it. And so motion passes. Meeting adjourned at 8:37 p.m. Thank you, everyone. See you next month.